Imagine you are standing in the middle of a huge crowd of thousands of people. All around you, cameras are clicking and bright lights are flashing like tiny lightning bolts. In the center of all this noise and light is a woman with a kind smile and a famous haircut. This was Princess Diana. For a long time, she was the most photographed woman in the whole wide world. Everywhere she went, people followed her. They wanted to see what she was wearing, who she was talking to, and if she looked happy or sad. But while everyone was looking at her outside, Diana was doing something very smart and very secret on the inside. She was playing a very big game of legal chess with the royal family, and the people at the palace never saw it coming. When she died in a very sad car accident, everyone in the world felt like they had lost a friend. Most people thought that because she was a princess, all her money and her beautiful things would just go back to the king and the queen. They thought the crown would just swallow it all up. But then a very important paper called her will was opened. It turns out that Diana had a secret plan. She made a special move to make sure her money went to a very specific place. This move was so surprising and so big that her own family actually went to a judge to try to change it. This story has everything. It has secret letters, a huge pile of money called a freedom fund, and the truth about who really got her treasures. This secret is the reason why the royal family looks and acts so different today. It wasn't just about the cash. It was about her two sons, William and Harry. It was about the one person she trusted to keep her rebel spirit alive. Was this just a mom trying to protect her kids, or was it a smart way to get back at the royal family one last time? You really need to stay and listen to this, because what was in that will changes everything we thought we knew about the people's princess. Princess Diana did not start her life in a palace. She was born on July 1, 1961 in a big house called Park House. It was in a place called Norfolk, England. She was the fourth child in her family. Her parents were named John and Francis. Her family was very fancy and had been friends with the royal family for many, many years. For a long time, the Spencers, that was her last name, lived in the same world as the kings and queens. In fact, both of Diana's grandmothers were special helpers to the Queen Mother. This means that Diana didn't have to learn how to be around royal people. She was born into that world. But even though she was born into a fancy family, things were not always easy or happy in her home. When she was born, her parents were actually a little bit disappointed. They really, really wanted a baby boy so he could carry on the family name and take over the big house one day. Because they were so surprised she was a girl, they didn't even give her a name for a whole week. Finally, they named her Diana Frances. Inside her family, she had a funny nickname. They called her Dutch. This was short for Duchess. They called her this because even when she was a little girl, she acted very polite and confident like a leader. She was a quiet child, but she had a lot of strength inside her. She was baptized in a church near where the Queen lived, and she grew up playing with her sisters, Sarah and Jane, and her little brother, Charles. But before Diana was even born, something very sad happened. She had a brother named John who died right after he was born. This made her parents very stressed. They felt a lot of pressure to have a boy, and it made her mother very unhappy. Later on, Diana's brother said that this was a terrible time for their mom and dad. It was so hard that it eventually led to them getting a divorce. When Diana was very small, her life seemed like a fairy tale. She lived in a house that the Queen owned, and she even called the Queen Aunt Lily. She used to play with the Queen's sons, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, just like they were normal neighborhood kids. But inside the house, things were falling apart. When Diana was only 7 years old, her parents decided to stop being married. This was a very, very hard time for a young girl. Her mother moved away to be with a new man. For a little while, Diana lived with her mom in London. But during Christmas, her father wouldn't let her go back to her mother. He had help from a lady named Lady Ferme, and he won a big fight in court to keep the kids. Diana had to stay with her father from then on, which made her feel very lonely. Then in 1976, her father married a new woman named Rain. Diana and her sisters did not like their new stepmother at all. They thought she was mean and bossy. There were many fights in the house. One time, Diana even pushed her stepmother down the stairs because she was so angry. Later, Diana said her childhood was very unstable and not very happy. In 1975, everything changed again. Her father became an earl, which is a very fancy title. This meant Diana was now called Lady Diana. The whole family moved into a giant, famous house called Althorpe. Even though it was a beautiful place, Diana still felt sad inside. She went to different schools, but she didn't like her books very much. She failed her big tests twice. But even if she wasn't good at schoolwork, her teachers noticed that she was very kind. She was great at helping other people and being a good friend. She even won a school award for having a good spirit. This was an early sign that she would grow up to be a very helpful and famous person. When she was a teenager, she was very shy. She loved to play the piano and she was very good at swimming and diving. She also loved to dance, especially ballet. When she couldn't find the words to say how she felt, she would dance instead. In the late 1970s, she started helping people at a hospital for people with sick minds. She also worked as a nanny taking care of babies. She even went to a fancy school in Switzerland, but she didn't stay long because she missed London. When she came back, she lived in an apartment with her friends and worked normal jobs like teaching dance and working at a school for little children. She was learning how to be grown-up and independent, all on her own. While Diana was living her life in London, there was another story going on that was much more complicated. This story was about King Charles and a woman named Camilla. This is the famous love triangle that people still talk about today. Charles and Camilla met a long time ago, even before he met Diana. They liked each other right away. Charles liked that Camilla was funny and that she didn't treat him like a prince. She treated him like a regular guy. But back then, the royal family had very strict rules. They didn't think Camilla was the right person for a future king to marry. While Charles was away with the Navy, Camilla married another man. This made Charles very sad. He wrote letters saying his heart was broken. But even though Camilla was married, she and Charles stayed very close friends. They still loved each other in secret. Then in 1977, Charles met Diana. At the time, she was only 16 years old. There was no romance at first. Charles was actually dating Diana's older sister, Sarah. Diana was just the shy sister in the background. But in 1980, Charles saw Diana again and thought she was perfect. She was young, beautiful, and the public loved her. The royal family thought she was the right choice. So Charles asked Diana to marry him. They told the world they were getting married in 1981. It looked like a fairy tale, but there were problems from the start. When someone asked if they were in love, Diana said, "Of course." But Charles said, "Whatever in love means." That was a very weird thing to say. They had only met 13 times before they got engaged. They had a giant wedding that millions of people watched on TV. Soon they had 2 sons, William and Harry. Diana said those early years were the only time they were ever really happy. But the happiness didn't last. Only 5 years later, Charles and Camilla started their secret relationship again. Diana knew it was happening. She could feel it. One day, she even went up to Camilla and told her she knew the truth. Camilla told Diana she had everything. The world loved her and she had 2 beautiful kids. But Diana said she just wanted her husband back. It was a very sad and messy time. By 1992, the secret was out. Everyone knew about the affair. Charles and Diana said they were going to live apart. Later, Charles admitted on TV that he had been unfaithful. Diana also had a famous interview where she said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." She meant it was too crowded with Camilla there. They finally got a divorce in 1996. A year later, Diana died in a car crash in Paris. The whole world was shocked and cried for her. Thousands of people put flowers in the streets. 2 years later, Charles and Camilla started appearing together in public. They eventually got married in 2005. The long, sad triangle was finally over, but it left a lot of pain behind. Diana was caught in a system that didn't have room for her heart, and she had to compete with a love that never went away. Princess Diana was a person who liked to do things her own way. She didn't always ask for permission. Even before she was a princess, she did something that no other royal bride had ever done. She had a real job. She worked as a nanny and a school teacher. This was a big deal because royal women were usually just supposed to be fancy and not work for money. Diana showed up with real-world experience. When it was time to get her engagement ring, she did something different again. Usually the palace makes a special ring that no one else has. But Diana looked at a catalog from a jewelry store and picked one out herself. She didn't care about tradition, she picked what she liked. That ring is very famous now. It is a blue sapphire with diamonds around it. Today, Kate Middleton wears that same ring. Diana also changed her wedding vows. She took out the word obey. She didn't want to promise to obey Charles. She wanted to be his partner. This caused a lot of talk back then, but later, both Kate and Meghan Markle did the same thing. Diana also changed how royal moms act. Before her, royal babies were born at home. But Diana went to a hospital to have her sons. This became a new tradition. She also didn't want to leave her kids with nannies all the time. She took baby William with her on a big trip to Australia, which was very unusual. She wanted her kids to have a normal life. She made sure they went to public school instead of having teachers come to the palace. She wanted them to play with other kids and paint with their fingers. She took them to get hamburgers at McDonald's and to ride on buses and trains. She wanted them to know that the world was bigger than just being a prince. While other royals tried to act like everything was perfect, Diana was honest about her pain. She talked about her marriage problems and her health struggles. She didn't hide behind the palace walls. She also changed the rules for fashion. The Queen always wore gloves and hats, but Diana stopped wearing them. She wanted to touch people when she met them. She said you can't cuddle a child if you are wearing a big hat. One of the most famous things she did was shake hands with a person who had a sickness called AIDS. Back then, many people were scared to touch people with AIDS, but Diana showed the world that it was okay to be kind. Her sons still do work to help people with that sickness today because of her. Diana also talked about having an eating disorder. She told the truth even when it was uncomfortable. Her sons now speak openly about mental health because she showed them how. Step by step, Diana changed the rules. She worked, she chose her own ring, she changed her vows, and she raised her kids differently. She showed that you can wear a crown and still be a real person. She didn't just follow the rules, she rewrote them. When Princess Diana died in 1997, she was not officially part of the royal family anymore. But that didn't mean she left without making sure things were handled. Behind all the flowers and the sad music, Diana left a very complicated pile of money and things. She had a will, which is a paper that says who gets what after someone dies. It was a very big deal, and it would change her sons' lives forever. At first, it seemed like a simple story. Everyone thought her two boys, William and Harry, would just get everything, but it turned out to be much harder than that. Diana wrote her will in 1993, which was a few years before she actually got divorced. At that time, she had about £5 million from her father. She never changed the will after she got her big divorce payment from Charles. Because she wasn't a working royal anymore, her will was not kept secret. Everyone could see her money business. When she died, she was worth about $31 million. This included cash, investments, and her beautiful jewelry and clothes. But not all of that money went straight to her boys. Under the law in England, Charles could have taken back some of the money because they had only been divorced for a short time. He didn't do that, but he was told to let the money stay in her estate so it could be taxed. This meant millions of dollars were lost to taxes before the boys could even touch it. Even when the money was ready, the boys weren't allowed to have it all at once. A special fund was made for them and their future families. Even today, their wives, Kate and Meghan, can use some of that money, but Diana also had a secret letter called a letter of wishes. In this letter, she said she wanted 75% of her jewelry and personal things to be split between William and Harry. She hoped their future wives would wear her jewelry one day. That did happen. William gave Diana's ring to Kate, and Meghan has worn Diana's bracelets. But there was another part of the letter that was very sad. Diana wanted 25% of her things to go to her 17 godchildren, but because the letter wasn't a legal part of the will, her family decided not to do it. Instead of getting nice jewelry or special gifts, the godchildren were given small things like cups and plates. This made some people very angry. Diana tried to be nice to everyone, but her family didn't follow her wishes. After the jewelry was sorted out, the rest of Diana's money was put into a trust. This is like a safe where the money stays until a person is old enough. Diana wanted her boys to get the money when they turned 25, but her family went to a judge and asked to change the age to 30. They thought 25 was too young. So the boys got some of the interest money at 25, but they had to wait until they were 30 to get the big pile of cash. When they finally turned 30, they each got about £10 million. Some of Diana's most famous things were also kept away for a long time. Her famous wedding dress with the long train was kept by her brother, Charles Spencer. He showed it in museums all over the world to raise money for charity. It wasn't until Harry turned 30 in 2014 that the dress finally went to her sons. They also got to pick one special item from her things at the palace. William chose her gold watch, which was a gift from her grandfather. He thought she would want him to have it. Harry chose her sapphire engagement ring, but the brothers made a secret deal. They said that whoever got married first could use the ring. So when William was ready to marry Kate, Harry gave him the ring. Harry still found a way to honor his mother, though. When he made Meghan's ring, he used 2 diamonds from Diana's collection. People also think the boys inherited Diana's childhood home, Althorpe, but they didn't. That house stays with the Spencer family and will go to their cousin. Today, William is much richer than Harry because he is going to be the king. His money is worth over $1 billion. Harry has much less, about $60 million. But Diana's money gave Harry something very important: freedom. He said that without his mom's money, he and Meghan wouldn't have been able to leave the royal family and move to America. Even after she was gone, Diana was still looking out for her youngest son. She left him a way to find his own path. She didn't just leave money, she left power. And that was her smartest move of all. Think about how much strength it took for Diana to do all of this. She lived in a world where everyone was always watching her, but she still managed to keep her own secrets. She was a mother first, and everything she did was for her boys. She wanted them to be strong, to be kind, and to be free. She didn't want them to be stuck in a life that made them unhappy. By changing the rules of the royal family and making smart choices with her money, she made sure they had a better life than she did. She was a woman who knew how to use her fame to help others, but she also knew how to use her mind to protect her family. When we look at William and Harry today, we see their mother's heart in them. We see it when they help people who are sick or when they talk about their feelings. We see it in the way they love their own children. Princess Diana wasn't just a princess in a storybook. She was a real person who had to fight for what she believed in. She showed us that you can be kind and strong at the same time. She showed us that it's okay to be different and to stand up for yourself. Even though her life was short, she made a huge difference in the world. People will never forget her because she wasn't afraid to be herself. She was the people's princess, and she will always be remembered for her big heart and her brave spirit. She left behind more than just money and jewelry. She left behind a lesson for all of us. She taught us that love is the most important thing, and that we should always try to make the world a better place. Imagine how much pressure she must have felt every single day. Being part of the royal family is not just about wearing pretty dresses and living in palaces. It is about following hundreds of very old rules. You have to walk a certain way, talk a certain way, and even eat a certain way. For a young girl like Diana, who was very shy and sensitive, this must have been very scary. But as she grew up, she realized that she didn't have to follow all those rules. She saw that she could use her position to do things that actually mattered. When she took off her gloves to touch a sick person, she wasn't just being nice, she was making a statement. She was saying that everyone deserves respect no matter what. This was very different from how the royal family usually acted. They were supposed to stay distant and stay quiet, but Diana couldn't do that. She had too much love to give. This love is what made her so special to people all over the planet. They saw that she was real. They saw that she struggled with the same things they did, like feeling lonely or having problems in her marriage. When she was honest about these things, it made people feel like they weren't alone. This was her greatest gift. She used her fame to shine a light on problems that no one wanted to talk about. She made the world a more compassionate place. Even her divorce was a big moment in history. Back then, it was very rare for a royal couple to get divorced. It was a huge scandal, but Diana knew that she couldn't stay in a marriage where she wasn't loved. She chose her own happiness over the rules of the palace. This was very brave. She had to deal with the press following her even more, and she had to figure out who she was without being a royal highness anymore. But she did it with grace. She continued her charity work, and she continued to be a wonderful mother. She showed that your life doesn't end just because your marriage does. You can start over and be even stronger than before. Her life after the divorce was short, but she did so much in that 1 year. She traveled to help people, and she found a new sense of freedom. She was finally living life on her own terms. This is what she wanted for her sons, too. She didn't want them to be afraid to be themselves. She wanted them to know that they had a choice. The story of her inheritance is also a story about her family. It shows that even when people love each other, things can get complicated when money and fame are involved. Her mother and sister had to make very hard decisions after she died. They had to deal with the law and with the palace. Even though they didn't follow every single one of Diana's wishes, they tried to do what they thought was best at the time. It reminds us that no family is perfect, even a royal one. But through all the court cases and the trust funds, the most important thing remained: Diana's love for William and Harry. That love is what protected them and helped them grow into the men they are today. They have faced many challenges of their own, but they have always had the legacy of their mother to guide them. They know that she would be proud of them for helping others and for being good dads. Princess Diana's childhood also tells us a lot about why she was a rebel. Because she grew up in a house that was often unhappy and where she felt like she wasn't heard, she wanted to make sure other people didn't feel that way. She had a special connection with anyone who felt like an outsider. She understood what it was like to be judged and to be lonely. This empathy is what made her so good at her job. When she visited a hospital, she didn't just walk through the rooms, she sat on the beds and talked to the patients. She listened to their stories. She made them feel like they were the most important people in the room. This wasn't something she was taught to do, it was just who she was. She had a heart that was too big for the palace walls. That's why she had to break free. Think about the Freedom Fund that Harry mentioned. That money wasn't just about being able to buy things. It was about being able to say no. It was about being able to choose a different life. Diana knew that one day her sons might want to do things differently. She knew the royal life could be very hard and very restrictive. By making sure they had their own money, she was giving them a way out if they ever needed it. She was giving them the power to make their own decisions. This is a very powerful thing for a mother to do. She was looking far into the future long after she would be gone to make sure her children were safe. She was their guardian angel in every sense of the word. Her will was her last act of love, a final message to her boys that she would always be with them, no matter what. In the end, Princess Diana was a woman of many parts. She was a shy girl, a fashion icon, a grieving wife, a devoted mother, and a bold rebel. She lived her life in the bright light of fame, but she never lost her soul. She showed the world that a person's worth is not measured by their title or their money, but by how much they care about others. She changed the royal family forever, making them more human and more connected to the people. She left behind a legacy of compassion that continues to inspire millions. So when you think of the people's princess, don't just think of the cameras and the dresses. Think of the woman who broke the rules to follow her heart. Think of the mother who made a secret plan to protect her sons. Diana's story is a story of hope and a reminder that even in the toughest times, kindness can change the world. She will always be a bright star in history, shining a light on the path for everyone who wants to be a rebel for a good cause. What are your thoughts on Princess Diana? Do you think her moves were those of a protector or a strategist? We would love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Her life had so many layers, and everyone sees her a little differently. Maybe you remember seeing her on TV, or maybe you have learned about her in school. Either way, her impact is undeniable. If you enjoyed learning the deep truth about Diana's legacy and her secret will, please give this video a like and share it with someone who loves royal history. It helps our channel a lot and lets us keep making these stories for you. Also, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into the lives of people who changed the world. We have so many more stories to tell, from the secrets of the palace to the heroes of history. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today and for listening to the story of the woman who redefined what it means to be a princess. Before you go, don't forget to click the next video on your screen to keep the journey going. There is always more to discover, and we are so happy to have you here with us. We will see you in the next one.